Alright, so we're going to go over ranked 5v5, we're going to go over compositions, we're going to go over shot calling right now. Alright, so stand by. Make sure I'm up and running. There we go. Alright, let's do this shit. So, ranked 5v5 by me. Alright, the first thing we're going to go over is team compositions. So, go ahead and follow along as I read. First, we're going to go over the team compositions. What makes them work, how to use them efficiently, and hopefully this...
Hey, wake up. Hey, wake up.
So let's move on. First thing we're going to go over is the poke and disengage introduction. Alright, at its heart, the poke comp is about laying siege. The core of the team is formed around champions with extremely long-range damage abilities, supported by long-range crowd control. Alright, the crowd control can be stuns, but it can be just as effective having slows and zoning abilities. Anivia walls, Trundle fucking pillar of garbage, and pretty much any kind of obstructing barrier that can alter terrain. Alright. Poke me if I'm going too quickly or anything like that, or anything fucks up. Alright. Next we're going to go over poke and disengage execution. Alright. So the execution of it. The ideal situation for a poke comp is to set the fight up ahead of time. This can be done either around objectives such as Baron, Drake, just warding, like small objectives, red and blue, like very, very small objectives. You can also do them around towers, which is the main point of Siege. Damage dealers will start by using attacks or abilities to wear down the enemy. Pretty much Varus Q, Kog'Maw AP in mid lane. You got Nidalee Spears, Corki fucking Rocket, shit like that. Alright. And crowd controllers are going to use stun, slows, zoning, to make the long-range skill shots easier to hit. So you got like Blitzcrank Grab, you have the Echo Stun, you have the Elise. Stand by. What's the problem? What is the problem?
Like it keeps loading for me. The quality is too high for my internet.
Well, I can see it fine.
Okay.
Like it keeps loading all the time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wait, you've got 8 viewers. There's only 4 of us.
I don't know. Don't ask me. Alright, I'm gonna continue, but Melina, I'll give you a separate class later if necessary, if it doesn't work out for that.
Bless you, dear.
Channel switched.
Alright. Man, gotta go back now. Okay. Now, the crowd control effects can be like Elise's stun, shit like that. That's more long range. You don't want to try and go in with shit that's like close range because it's getting rid of the whole poke aspect of it. Okay, so you want more ranged crowd control effects. It doesn't have like Karma's slow, things like that. Alright. The longer full engagements can be delayed is pretty much going to determine whether or not you can win that fight. If you start a fight off and immediately are engaged on and you have a team fight, you're most likely going to lose with poke and disengage. Right? Most teams run just poke. I recommend definitely running poke and disengage because you're going to be able to poke, and if they have that hard engaged team, that team that's going to be able to Alistair, headbutt, knock up on you. Alright, so in case they do get that fucking crowd control factor hard engage out on you, you can disengage from it. Alright, you want to try to engage a fight after you've already gotten the enemy health worn down, after you've gotten their mana worn down. You want them to be worn out from trying to defend whatever objective or tower you're going for. Alright, and if everything goes according to the comp, the damage you dealt will either kill or force the enemy away from the objective, the tower, things like that, and it'll open up a number of advantages. Right. The enemy is faced with a choice. You either stay and fight short-handed with low health, or you peel back and give up the Tower, Baron, Drake, Inhibitor, Ward, Red, Blue, etc. Right. Either way, it's going to work for you. You keep throughout the entire game when you're playing this team comp, you're going to continue doing this. Repeat, repeat, repeat. It's going to starve your opponents from objectives, map control, vision, everything all the way down to the victory. Next, we're going to go over the counters to poke and disengage. In terms of counter, there's 3 pitfalls to watch out for. The first is falling way behind. If you're Varus mid lane and you're going against Zed, and Zed completely shatters your lane, how much are you really going to be able to do for poke? Right? It doesn't have a lot in the composition to help you come back, help you get back into the game. Right? All damage the long-range harassers throw out have to be credible for the strategy to work. And what this means is you need to deal damage. Right? You need to have someone that's going to consistently put out that long-range damage. The second is high amounts of shielding or healing on the enemy team. So Braum shield, counters. Soraka, counters. Janna shield, counters. Alright? And if the damage doesn't stick, you're not going to force them away from the objective, whatever it may be. Alright, the final and most dangerous one. Oh my god. Still going. Alright, the final most dangerous one to poke and disengage is hard engage. It specializes in closing distance with tough attackers. So you got hard engage from Shyvana, you have Alistar, you got Nautilus, you have Thresh, you have all these people that can close that distance and get into your team. Alright. What they're going to do is they're going to lock your team in place, and you're not going to have the distance to poke them out, and then your comp's going to fall apart because you're not as tough as the Riven that's sitting on top of your AD carry. Alright, I will do questions after, but I'm just going to go through all of it. The next we're going to talk about is split push and disengage. Alright, everyone says that split push should have a fair amount of disengage. I agree. Poke doesn't necessarily need it, but it is a necessary component of split push. Alright, so split push and disengage. It does have a lot in common with the poke comp, and both involve sieging turrets or other objectives. Sieging. While poke teams are forced to wear down the enemy with like long range damage, I've given the examples already, to force them away and take the unfavorable engagement, the split push focuses on keeping the entire enemy team focused on one key point for as long as possible so that another objective can be taken away. So it's pretty much just like dangling the inhibitor in front of them while you're backdooring their nexus. What it does is it'll help keep them out of position and then allow you to continue getting objectives. The execution of it, this is a lot. Alright, so the entire mechanic of this is around the split push tactic. Right? Pretty much what that means is that you have a strong wave clearing champion on the top or bottom lane that pushes minion waves and can damage the tower, while the rest of your team are grouped doing something else. The splits that you can do are a 4-1, a 3-1-1. You can do a 2-2-1, but that's not really favorable. Like many aspects of the team composition, hard engages, disengages, long range poke, split pushing can be utilized by any team comp. And it's often shown in professional play. You've seen it all of the summer and spring split for LCS. Though it is true that some champions are better at split pushing than others, and it is possible to build your team up to optimize the strategy. The idea of building a team around split push is the driving design goal of the split push disengage. The first and most obvious is to have a strong split pushing champion. The champion should be able to clear minion waves, have good escapes, and be able to duel nearly anyone. If it's possible to have an ability that can reach across the map, aka Ezreal ult, Jinx ult, G's. Things of that sort. Gangplank ult, I guess, technically. Um, it'll make it a little easier. So while things are going on somewhere else, this champion can go to bot lane, top lane, and start clearing waves of minions. And the reason it's bot or top is because you want your team on the opposite side of the map, forcing the enemy team to make a decision. Alright? You want them to send that one person down so that your champion, your summoner, can fucking duel them, clear them, and if left unchecked, you're going to push the minions and take the towers. Alright. If even one enemy peels off, there's a possibility of keeping the push going by either killing the defender or forcing them away. So that's where the dueling comes in. If more than one enemy peels off to defend the champion, this simply employs that his escape while the rest of the team either takes the objective that they were pressuring or wins the 4v3, the 4v5, and you're able to take the objective. Counters. Split push is pretty straightforward. So countering a split push is difficult if done right. The key elements of a counter will be mobility skill and items related. So teleport, home guard boots, having strong chase potential and assassination champions to run down and duel the split pusher. Split pushers like Zed, very good split pusher. 80 carries, based on which one you do, very strong split pushers. Shaco, very strong split pusher. All right. Or they can collapse on your kiting team. Alright, next we're going to go over one of the most used, Hard Engage. Hard Engage teams are designed to stop the enemy where they are. Alright, you're pretty much there to steamroll everybody. So rather than siege or poke or split push, Hard Thresh Hook. Hard Engage such as the Blitzcrank pull, Hard Engage such as your top laner picking someone off. Like, it doesn't just have to be the support. So picking off a member of the enemy team and then relentlessly diving on the retreating allies. So as they're trying to kite back, continue pressing forward and picking off enemy after enemy. And this is done through a whole combination of gap closing, hard control or hard CC, and physical displacement. So walling, pretty much terrain, pretty much changing terrain. Stuns, snares, slows, hooks, shit like that. Alright. The elements of the Hard Engage strategy can be woven into a wide variety of team compositions. This is honestly one of the compositions that has so many different combinations of champions that you could have almost anyone for this. And there are countless different compositions for it. Alright. You want to try to have one champion with initiation capability. And I'm talking straight up initiation. Nautilus, insane initiation capability. Things like that. And you want to have at least one champion, however, the ideal team comp would have a combination of many of these elements. So you're pretty much dragging the entire team one after another in a fiery hellstorm, leaving a trail of corpses to cushion your feet as you stroll toward the nearest available tower, inhibitor, or nexus. I will talk about it, but in the next slide. But one of the main components of having all the CC is being able to chain it together, being able to communicate as a team to get CC pushed forward. You have the Alistair headbutt knockup combination. That happens. As soon as they start coming down, you want to have your next portion of CC, and you need to communicate that with your team. You need that next portion of CC to hit then, and then again. You need to understand your champion and how long it's going to take for your crowd control effect to wear off. Alright. Execution of Hard Engage. The ideal champion set for this team is going to be high mobility champions. People with stuns, knockups, massive AoE damage. Sometimes you can manage all of that at once through chained ultimates, aka the Wombo combo, or this Curse of Sad Bullet Time. Heard that one today. Depending on which combination is used, or simply press R, champions who can create walls, use disruptive barriers, have Varus's ult, for example, being able to chain CC. One advantage to this team comp is, thanks to CC creep, there's an ever-widening variety of champions that has disable, stun, snares, all that crowd control that you need. So making this comp has been easier than it has ever been because of all the champions, the changes, and all the newer patches. And it's nearly impossible to ban this strategy out now because there's so much. It's very effective in solo queue, where coordination is required for most complicated team comps is probably lacking, but the opposing team of random strangers will find it difficult to deal with brute force approach. Once they fall a little bit behind, it's not a guaranteed win, but if your team falls behind to the point where you can't initiate and win confidently, then your path to victory narrows sharply. So pretty much what that means is if you get behind and you can't engage on them with a hard engaged team comp, the odds of you winning are very slim. Right? Even though if you're super far ahead with your hard engaged team comp and you can continuously engage and shit, you still have to be careful. Watch for those disengage. You might want to ban it out. Like, you want to make sure that your hard engage is going to get to their back line. Your hard engage is going to be able to wombo combo them, chain CC, like banning out those champs that can keep the team away is probably smart. Janna, Nami, you have Gnar can even do it. You have a lot of champions that can disengage. Gragas, Barrel, done. Alright, hard engage counters. The greatest weakness of this often comes to light in situations with poor team coordination. Communication is key. Always, always key. Alright, common mistakes including one of your members of your team used their CC on the wrong target, or too far away from the team for you to follow up, or the rest of the team to follow up. Another is improperly chaining CC. You cannot burn all your CC at once, or they are literally going to laugh and walk away. You need to be able to do it one after another, so you get that 10 seconds of stun rather than 2 to 3 seconds and you've burned every cooldown you have. Right? And if they can survive through your initial crowd control and burst damage, it's either improper execution of CC, or it's an outplay or trick, or using Zhonya's Guardian Angel, some shit like that. Some champions are tanky enough to live through it, but you'll want to do it on the people that are your targets. You want to target the carries. AD carry, AP carry, sometimes the top laner. Like if they're playing similar to Zion Spartan, you obviously want to target that guy because he's playing that Yaz top or that fucking Rumble that's going to fucking one-shot your team. Alright? It's going to go poorly for you if you do not chain CC. Alright. Next I'm going to go over shot calling, and I'm going to start off to why it's needed. Alright? Everyone who is into League of Legends for a while has heard about shot calling. It gets talked about on LCS. It's a key component of being a professional League of Legends player. Right? So it has to be important. We talk about it very often, but the exact reason behind someone doing important calls, that's what we're going to go over. Positioning is one of the first key factors of shot calling. This is heard pretty often and it does make sense. Some roles in League of Legends are better suited for shot calling than others. In my opinion, the shot caller should be chosen based on their position. Honestly, I think it goes jungle, mid, support, top, then AD carry. The reasoning behind this is that the jungler and mid laner already have a big influence on the early game. They also have the most map control, as well as awareness of the map. They're best suited for the shot caller position. Jungler has the most potential for it because of the overall view of the lanes. He doesn't have to focus on what he's doing. He can be farming. He could be fighting Gromp, looking at the map and saying, okay, this needs to happen. We need to push this lane. We need to slow push this lane so we can go for this objective. And either we're getting this or the tower's going down. On top of that, the jungler also brings his engage with him. Lee Sin, Jarvan, Rek'Sai, Elise, Echo, Gragas. Alright, following that, the support is the next suited role because the player with the most, they are the next player with the most map overview, next to the jungler and mid laner. Some supports are also good at engaging, like prime example, Leona, Nautilus, Thresh, shit like that. Supports are also going to be doing a large portion of warding, so their map overview, map awareness is going to be high. The top laner is 4th on the position because he is cut off from everyone else on the map. He is the island, and it is a shitty shot calling position. But in mid to late game, it is fine. The early game is not going to be able to really work for the top laner. Right? Top laners are usually forced to play like beefy stuff, so I'd stay away from top shot calling. AD carry is last on position because he has nothing to do with anything listed above. They have horrible early game influence, no roaming potential, no engagement. They don't really have good map overview in the early game because 1, they're farming, 2, they're trying to poke, and 3, they're trying to survive and not feed the AD carry or get caught by the support. When the time for Drakes start to subject your grouping becomes to a point, an AD carry can be a very good shot caller, especially when they're playing the Juggermaw or like using another hyper carry. If you were to have an AD carry shot caller, I would switch it between having a main shot caller and I would have the AD carry call for targeting, who they focusing per fight. Repeat that, whole team repeats after them. So pretty much targeting the enemy. Next, we're going to go over the second most important part of shot calling, game knowledge. This is the most simple one, and you should choose the player with the biggest game knowledge. As a shot caller, you need to know every single bit about the game. When is your team comp stronger than the other one? How do we have to play this team comp? What are the power spikes of the champions we are playing? Right? When the enemy team's mispositioned, so you can abuse them, you can force them to back, you can force them to give you what you want off of their mistakes. So pushing a tower, doing Nash, shit like that. If a shot caller knows the limits of the game, there can be some, well, I guess neat rotations. Can't believe I wrote that because that's a horrible way to say that. Anyways, you can push down mid lane when the other team isn't ready for it, or getting early Nash. You can get your 5th Drake because of certain team comps. Be warned though, if you are new to shot calling, it's going to take a lot of patience and practice. There is no shot caller in the world that picked up shot calling after 3 games and can pretty much win their team anything they want because of his shot calling. It takes a lot of failures and a lot of practice. Alright, moving on. Next, we're going to go over personality, the last point of shot calling. It is an important point. No one ever thinks it is. But not every person is eligible for being the shot caller. Alright, the person who does has to represent some factors. They cannot be the guy that tilts. You need to keep your team informed on what the plan is. And you cannot be a tilter because of it. If you tilt, you won't talk. And if you don't talk, you can't shot call. And if you can't shot call, you lose. You have to be self-confident. You have to have confidence. You can't hesitate on your calls. And you have to have the ability to follow through with what you're doing. Be able to take criticism. You're going to get criticism every fucking game you play. You're going to get people saying, that was a horrible call, why didn't we do this? Or, that was a decent call, but we could have done this. Or, good job, which is most likely most of the time you're not going to get that, so don't even worry about that last one. Alright, you have to be a team player. I write this because it's totally true. You cannot be an egoist. You win as a team and you lose as a team. No single player is the team. There's no I in team. So for those players that think they have the team on their back, I'm sorry, but this is a team game. And you will lose until you play as a team. You have to be able to handle pressure. In some situations, you're going to have to make hard decisions. All right? And these hard decisions can win or lose you the game. You can be at that 50-minute marker where one team fight can decide you losing the game and then pushing your Nexus, or you winning the game and you pushing theirs. But you have to be able to handle the pressure. Shit's gonna be hard to talk about. You're gonna get flamed. You're gonna get yelled at. People are gonna talk shit to you. But you just have to take that in stride and learn from what you've done. Because that next time that thing comes up and you're playing a comp against something similar, you can be like, this is what I did last time and I lost. But guess what I can do now and I'm going to win. And you have to be talkative. You'll have to talk all game. Everything you see. And you can't be the only one talking. You need to have your team feeding you information. If they don't feed you information, you can't be aware of everything on the map. It is physically and mentally not possible to understand everything that's going on the map at once. You need your team to feed you information such as summoner spells, teleport, flash, barrier, heal, ignite, cleanse, all that shit. You also need to have your team speak to you and give you information about, hey, this guy roamed. They are not in lane. They backed just now. These are the 3 biggest points that describe a shot caller. Alright, next we're going to go into how shot calling works. Alright. It is, like I've been saying, it is not 100% effort by the shot caller. The 4 other members of the team have to feed the shot caller information. Otherwise, the shot caller cannot do his job, and the team will not have good calls. You're going to lose because of it. You need proper information. Without you guys, the other 4 members of the team, they're going to have few to work with. And this is important that because like summoner cooldowns, like I said, core items, so when people are hitting power spikes, where certain wards are, and shit like that. With all this data, the shot caller can create the next steps in-game and let his team know what to do. It is really key to note that it is a team effort. A shot caller without his team is nothing, like a team without a shot caller. It also shows that it's hard to play. It's not hard to play that as a team. I can tell you from my experience, it is really important that the whole team stands behind the shot caller. And that means follow the call. Bad calls, good calls, no call at all. Like, you have to follow what he says, and you learn as a team. The last point in this I'm going to talk about is there's no room for long discussions. You can't be sitting there discussing this guy's call or why he thinks that, or someone critiquing him on the spot. You can make your own suggestions, and feel free to do that, but there's no time for a 5-10 minute talk, because the game's going to be over by then because you're getting angry and discussing that. You have to put blind faith into the shot caller. You need to let him do his job and trust that he's going to do it. You can tell him after the game that his one Drake call sucked, and that he'll probably agree, because most shot callers aren't perfect. Or that you should have probably done Baron, or hey, why didn't we slow push top while we pushed bottom since mid was already down? Like, it's a part of being on a team. You can't let your shot caller down. He won't let you down. There's no room for angry talk. And all that's going to do is disrupt all of your concentration throughout the game. Next thing I'm going to go over is target calling and objective rotation. I think this is one of the last slides, so bear with me. Alright, while it's true that the shot caller should give the team general information about how we fight, who the main target is, and by the way, I do suggest splitting shot calling up into 2. One person doing target calling, one person doing objective shot calling. Alright. So, here we go, an example. Imagine me as an AD carry. How should I call a target? If the fight gets dragged out on a long distance, so I can't even see my front line anymore, is this why target calling is a team effort? Right? If there is all of a sudden many calls, you should be sure to follow the one with the most importance. In this case, this is the one which the shot caller started at the beginning of the fight, or if he changed his mind. You never know what happens in a fight. Maybe someone's totally out of position or anything like that, and he has to make a new call. Right? Whatever the shot caller says should be #1 priority. The objective rotations. This is where the shot caller pretty much does his job. This shows whether or not you're good at it, or whether or not I need to look for a new one. So this is what I'm going to go over. Objective rotations. It's not just killing towers and doing Baron and Drake. It's also to do when you're losing, when you're behind, when you're down that 10k gold and you need to start warding your jungle, clearing their wards, trying to get a pick and get some breathing room to get you back in the game. There's also a lot of people that don't understand how to handle wave clear. I'm talking massive wave clear. I'm talking Zigg, Zerath, Sivir, like people that can clear a wave with one spell. Due to these champions, it's often that you're going to run into a very long game and not be able to close out the game when you have the lead. If you know what strategy to use in what situation, then you're on the right path. You're going to be able to win. But you have to learn how to rotate. You have to be able to call that rotation. Slow push top. we're gonna do a 4-1 split in mid and bot. You know? Alright, here's the last slide. Don't be afraid of calling plays. This is the reason that shot callers are whether good or bad. This is one of the biggest reasons. Alright. It's a huge note as a shot caller. You need to understand that you will never, in the history of playing League, you will never make 100% of the right calls. Right? But you should focus heavily on the ones you do make right. Don't dwell on the ones that you fail. Like, oh, I failed on this. We did Drake and the enemy team did Baron, and we should have prioritized that, and now they're pushing our Nexus. Right? Don't let bad calls ruin your mood and the team's mood, because that could end up costing you the game. Don't let one bad call prevent you from making other calls. So if you fuck up, don't be quiet. Don't shut down. Get your team back in the game. It's your job. Alright. Times that are good for calling tower pushes are like when you have siege. Alright. They have players down with decent death timers. You have vision around the tower and you want to push. Vision, as we all know, is one of the most important keys to winning any single game. It's also important to push key objectives when you have vision. See the enemy top laner pushing top with no teleport. You have vision in the enemy jungle and around dragon. What do? Right? You can take the free dragon. You can even push bot tower. There are many, many, many situations like this. But the shot caller needs to watch out for all of them. He needs to have the strategy for it. Alright? Questions! Banana Man, minigun, arcade baron.
Channel switched.
Yo.
Hello.